The great trading station of Orion's crown floated silently in space. It was a giant circle of steel and glass with glowing blue lights that shone like a small star. Ships of many shapes came and went every hour. Some were smooth and silver, others rough and covered with scars of battle. The station was not only a place of trade, it was also a meeting ground where many alien species came together. Humans were newcomers here. Only 50 years ago had they stepped into galactic society, and though they were quick learners, they were still viewed as young and sometimes careless. Many older species saw them as bold, restless, and too free with their words. Among the humans living on the station was Ethan Hale, a young officer who worked as a communication aide. He was tall but not imposing, with sharp eyes that often noticed details others ignored. Ethan was curious by nature, and that curiosity sometimes made him speak too quickly. His commander often warned him, "Your words can start trouble if you don't think before speaking." Hale. On this particular day, Ethan walked through the main hall of the station, carrying a small datapad with a list of cargo. The hall was vast, with glass panels showing stars outside. Dozens of alien species moved through it, some towering, some small, some with scales, some with feathers. The sound of many languages mixed together, but the translator system turned them into a soft hum of understandable speech. It was then that Ethan's eyes caught something unusual. Across the hall stood a group of tall, armored figures. Their armor was dark silver with golden edges, shining under the bright lights. They carried long spears that glowed faintly. But what caught Ethan's attention most was the figure at their center. She was tall, her posture straight and commanding. Her skin was pale silver, her long hair flowing like strands of firelight. Her golden eyes scanned the hall with calm authority. She was not just a warrior. She looked like royalty. Ethan had read about her species before. The Valari, known for their discipline, pride, and traditions of honor. To insult a Valari was considered dangerous. Their culture was built on respect and formality. But in that moment, Ethan did not think about books or warnings. He only thought about how striking she looked. Without thinking, he muttered under his breath, "Hey, beauty queen." The words were soft, almost like a whisper to himself, but the station was strangely quiet. His voice carried farther than he expected. The armored guards turned their heads, and the tall woman stopped walking, her golden eyes locked onto him. The hall grew still. Conversations halted. A sense of tension filled the air like the calm before a storm. Ethan's heart jumped into his throat. He had not meant the words as an insult. Back home on Earth, beauty queen was a playful phrase. But as the woman's eyes narrowed, he realized too late how it must have sounded to her people. She stepped forward, her steps slow and heavy, each one echoing on the steel floor. Her guards followed, their spears glowing brighter. Ethan stood frozen, the datapad still in his hands. When she reached him, she stood so close that he had to tilt his head back slightly to meet her gaze. Her voice was sharp, controlled, and filled with anger. "Watch your mouth, human." The words rang in the hall like the strike of a hammer. The crowd around them shifted, whispers running through the aliens. Some stepped back, sensing that something dangerous was about to unfold. Ethan swallowed hard. His heart was beating so fast it felt like it might break his chest. He knew he had made a mistake. But something inside him also refused to look away. He kept his eyes on hers, even though fear pressed heavily on his chest. I didn't mean disrespect," Ethan managed to say. His voice was steady, though inside he felt anything but calm. It was just a human phrase. Her golden eyes narrowed further, and for a moment Ethan thought she might order her guards to strike him down. But instead she studied him closely as though weighing his worth. "A phrase," she repeated slowly, her voice cold. "You speak as if words are air without weight. Among my people, words are heavier than iron." The silence stretched between them. Ethan could feel every alien eye in the hall fixed on him. He wanted to explain further, but he knew speaking too much might make it worse. He stayed still, letting her judge. At last she turned away with a sharp motion of her cloak. Her voice, though quieter, still carried through the hall. "Pray that your commander teaches you respect, human. Next time your tongue may cost you more than your pride." With that, she walked away, her guards following like shadows. The hall slowly returned to life, whispers spreading like fire. Ethan stood frozen in place, his body stiff. He felt heat rush to his face, not just from fear, but from the realization that his careless words had almost caused a disaster. When he finally moved, he let out a long breath and muttered to himself, "Brilliant, Hale, just brilliant." But deep inside, he also felt something strange. When her golden eyes had pierced him, he had not felt only fear. There had been something else, something like awe or perhaps admiration. His heart had raced not just because of danger, but because there was something powerful about her presence that he could not explain. That night, as he returned to his small quarters on the station, Ethan replayed the moment in his head again and again. He should have been angry at himself, but instead he kept remembering her face, her voice, and the way she carried herself with such strength. He knew this was not the end. The Valari were not quick to forget, and neither was he. Something had been set into motion, something larger than a careless word. And though Ethan could not explain why, he felt that this was only the beginning of a story that would change his life. The next morning, the station felt different to Ethan. It was the same wide halls, the same busy movement of ships docking and leaving, the same murmur of voices in many languages. But wherever he walked, he felt eyes on him. Whispers followed like shadows. Some humans gave him nervous looks. Others avoided him altogether, as if his presence might bring trouble. Aliens stared openly, some with amusement, some with clear disapproval. Ethan kept his face calm, but inside he was uneasy. He had not meant to insult anyone, yet he had done exactly that to one of the most important figures on the station. His commander, Captain Darius Venn, was waiting for him in the human sector office. The captain was a stern man with gray at his temples and sharp eyes that had seen many political storms. He did not waste time. "You've made yourself famous, Hale," the captain said, holding up a small holoscreen. News from the station's communication network showed Ethan's face with text flashing about, "Human insult to Valari princess." Ethan winced. "It wasn't an insult, sir. I didn't mean it that way." "Intent doesn't matter," Captain Venn said firmly. "Perception does. And right now the perception is that you mocked Lyra Valarian, heir to the Valari throne. She is not just a warrior, Hale. She is a symbol of her people." Ethan felt his stomach twist. He had guessed she was important, but hearing her full name and title made the weight of his mistake heavier. "What happens now?" Ethan asked quietly. "That depends," the captain said. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "The Valari see honor as sacred. If she presses the issue, it could turn into a demand for punishment, maybe even a trial. And if this becomes a diplomatic fight, humans will lose badly. We don't have the influence or power yet." Ethan sat in silence. The thought of an entire species looking at him as an enemy, because of one careless phrase, made his chest tight. Captain Venn's tone softened slightly. "You'll keep a low profile. No wandering into Valari halls. No more jokes. And if she speaks to you again, you show respect. Clear, deliberate respect. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Ethan said quickly. But as he left the office, his thoughts were restless. Keeping a low profile sounded good in theory, but the station was not small. Avoiding the Valari entirely would be nearly impossible. That evening, Ethan sat in the common area, drinking a cup of bitter station tea. He was trying to relax, but his mind kept replaying the golden eyes of Lyra Valarian. Her voice echoed in his head. "Watch your mouth, human." The words had been sharp, but there had been something more behind them, a force, a strength that lingered. Why was he thinking about it so much? He should be angry at himself, not fascinated by her presence. "Thinking about your little scene yesterday?" The voice pulled him out of his thoughts. Ethan turned to see Mira Chen, another human officer sitting across the table. She was sharp-witted and one of the few people on the station Ethan trusted. "You've heard then?" Ethan said dryly. "Everyone has heard," Mira replied. "Half the aliens think you insulted her. The other half think you were trying to flirt." Ethan nearly choked on his tea. "Flirt? With a Valari princess? That would be suicide," Mira smirked. "And yet the way she looked at you, it wasn't just anger. You caught her attention. That means something." Ethan shook his head. "Attention is the last thing I need right now." But deep down he couldn't deny Mira's words had a strange ring of truth. Meanwhile, in the Valari quarters of the station, Lyra Valarian sat in silence. Her guards waited at a respectful distance. Her armor rested on a stand, polished and gleaming. One of her advisors, an older warrior named Kalen, spoke carefully. "Princess, the humans are inexperienced." The boy's words were foolish, but perhaps not meant as an insult. "Shall we let it pass?" Lyra's golden eyes narrowed. Pass? If I let a human speak so carelessly, what message does that send? That Valari honor can be mocked without consequence? Kalen bowed his head. Then you wish to demand punishment? Lyra was silent for a long moment. Her mind replayed the scene. She remembered the human's face, not just his careless words, but the way he had not looked away even when fear was in his eyes. He had not collapsed in apology, nor had he hidden behind excuses. He had stood there unsteady but unbroken. No, Lyra said at last, not punishment. He does not understand our ways. But he must learn. The trial of honor will decide his fate. Kalen looked up in surprise. A trial? For a single word? Lyra's expression was firm. For a single word that carried weight. If the human passes, his name will be cleared. If he fails, then it proves his disrespect. The advisor nodded slowly. Very well, Princess. The council must be informed. The next day, whispers grew louder on the station. Word spread that Princess Lyra had invoked the trial of honor against a human. Many aliens watched with interest. To them, this was not just a matter of one man, it was a test of humanity itself. When Captain Venn heard, his jaw tightened. He called Ethan into the office again. She's demanding a trial, the captain said. Do you know what that means? Ethan frowned. I've read about it, it's a Valari way of proving worth, right? Worth and respect, Venn said grimly. It's not just a fight. It's puzzles, challenges, tests of character. No human has ever faced it before. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. And if I refuse? Refusal will be seen as cowardice, Venn said. The Valari will treat it as proof of guilt. That could damage every treaty we've worked for. Hail, we may not have a choice. Ethan's heart raced. He was just an officer, not a hero. He had never wanted to be the center of politics. But here he was, caught between honor and shame. He stared at his commander. So you're saying I have to do this? I'm saying, Venn replied carefully, that humanity's future may rest on it. That night, Ethan could barely sleep. His small room felt heavy, the air too thin. He stared at the ceiling, thinking of everything that had led him here. A single phrase spoken without thought had brought him to this point. He thought of Lyra again, the strength in her eyes, the way her words had struck him like steel. He didn't know if he admired her or feared her. Maybe both, but one thing was certain. Tomorrow he would face the trial, and nothing about his life would ever be the same again. The morning of the trial came quickly. The station's main arena was filled with light, banners of many species hanging from high steel beams. Crowds gathered in the seats, humans, Valari, and dozens of other alien species. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when a young human stood before Valari tradition. Ethan stood at the center of the arena floor. He wore no armor, only a simple uniform. His heart pounded so hard that he wondered if the entire crowd could hear it. He kept his shoulders straight, trying to look calm, though his stomach felt heavy. Above the arena, on a high balcony, Princess Lyra Valerian watched. She wore shining ceremonial armor, her golden eyes fixed on him. To the crowd, she looked like a figure of legend. Calm, strong, untouchable. But inside, Lyra was curious. She wanted to see if this human was truly a fool, or if there was something more hidden beneath his reckless words. A council elder, tall and robed, raised his hand to begin. His voice echoed through the arena. Today a human stands accused of dishonor before the Valari. By Princess Lyra's will, the trial of honor shall decide his fate. If he passes, his honor shall be restored. If he fails, he shall be marked as unworthy and his people shamed before all. The crowd stirred with whispers. Ethan swallowed. He felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about all humans. The elder continued. The trial has 3 tests, the test of body, the test of mind, and the test of spirit. Let them begin. The test of body. From a side gate, a massive Valari warrior entered the arena. His armor was thick, his spear glowing. He towered over Ethan, his steps shaking the floor. Ethan's throat went dry. He had expected a fight, but not against someone so huge. The elder spoke. The test of body shows strength and courage. Stand human and prove yourself. The warrior raised his spear. The crowd roared with anticipation. Ethan had no spear, no armor. Only his quick mind. As the warrior lunged, Ethan rolled to the side. The spear crashed against the ground where he had stood, leaving a deep crack. The crowd gasped. Ethan scrambled back to his feet, keeping distance. He knew he couldn't overpower the Valari, but he didn't need to. He only needed to endure. The warrior attacked again, swinging the spear. Ethan ducked, then grabbed a small piece of broken stone from the arena floor and threw it at the warrior's helmet. It made a sharp clang. The warrior snarled, turning his head. Ethan used the distraction to rush forward and kick the warrior's leg at the joint. It didn't knock him down, but it staggered him for a moment. The crowd roared louder, some cheering, others laughing in surprise. Ethan's chest burned from running and dodging. His body ached, but he kept moving. Again and again he avoided the heavy spear, forcing the warrior to waste energy. Finally, the elder raised his hand. Enough, the human has shown endurance and courage. The test of body is passed. The warrior stepped back, bowing to the elder. He gave Ethan a brief nod, reluctant but respectful. Ethan stood panting, sweat on his forehead, but a small smile formed on his lips. He had survived the first test. From the balcony, Lyra's golden eyes narrowed. She had expected him to be crushed in moments. Instead, he had turned weakness into strategy. Perhaps humans were not as predictable as she thought. The test of mind. The arena floor shifted. Panels moved aside, and a platform rose with glowing crystals arranged in patterns. The elder spoke again. The test of mind measures wisdom and problem-solving. To pass, the human must align the crystals into harmony before time runs out. Ethan frowned, stepping closer. The crystals pulsed with light, each in a different rhythm. It looked like a puzzle, but one more complicated than anything he had seen before. A timer appeared above the arena, glowing red numbers counting down. The crowd watched in silence as Ethan studied the crystals. He pressed one and the light shifted. Another crystal changed in response. He realized each crystal was connected to the others. Changing one altered several at once. He took a deep breath, forcing his nerves to settle. He remembered something his mother used to say back on Earth. When the world is too big, break it into smaller pieces. So he focused on one row of crystals at a time. Slowly, carefully, he began aligning them. His hands moved quickly, adjusting, testing, correcting mistakes. The timer ticked down. 10 seconds left. The crowd leaned forward. Ethan pressed the final crystal. All of them lit up at once, glowing in perfect harmony. The crowd erupted with noise. Some cheered. Others hissed in frustration that he had not failed. The elder raised his hand again. The test of mind is passed. Ethan let out a long breath, his body trembling. He had barely made it, but he had made it. From above, Lyra's expression remained calm, but inside she was unsettled. This human had faced a warrior with nothing but speed, and now he had solved a Valari puzzle under pressure. He was different from what she expected. The test of spirit. The arena grew silent. The elder spoke, his voice deeper now. The test of spirit is the most sacred. It is not strength or mind that decides it, but the heart. The human shall face visions of fear and truth. Only those with unbroken will can pass. Ethan felt a strange chill. The arena floor shimmered, and suddenly, he was no longer standing before the crowd. Instead, he was in darkness. A voice whispered around him. You are weak, human. You do not belong here. Images formed in the darkness. Ethan saw himself mocked by aliens, laughed at, ignored. He saw humans losing their place in the galaxy, treated as children forever. His chest tightened. The fears felt real, too real, but then another image appeared. He saw Earth, its blue oceans, green forests, the faces of his family. He saw children laughing, people building, explorers reaching for the stars. He remembered why humans had come to space, not to conquer, but to learn, to grow, to connect. His voice shook, but he spoke firmly. We are not weak. We are new, but we will grow stronger. We will stand. The visions faded. The arena returned. Ethan stood alone, his fists clenched, his heart pounding. The elder's voice rang out. The human has faced the test of spirit, and passed. The crowd erupted again, some cheering, others murmuring in disbelief. Ethan stood trembling, but a smile touched his lips. He had done it. He had passed all 3 trials. Aftermath on the balcony, Lyra rose to her feet. The hall fell silent. She looked down at Ethan, her golden eyes steady. For a long moment she said nothing. Then her voice rang clear across the arena. Human, you have proven yourself. You spoke without thought, but you faced the consequences with courage. By Valari law, your honor is restored. The crowd bowed their heads in respect. Ethan looked up at her, his chest still heaving. He gave a small, respectful bow. For the first time, Lyra felt something unexpected stir in her chest. Respect for a human, and perhaps the beginning of something more. The station of Orion's Crown was calm that afternoon, a quiet hum of engines and chatter filling its wide halls. Ethan Hale had barely slept after the trial of honor. His body still ached from the tests and his mind raced with thoughts of Lyra Valerian. She had acknowledged his courage, his heart, and his cleverness. Respect from her people was rare, and even more so from her personally. Ethan had just returned to his quarters to rest when a loud alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed across walls and corridors. The familiar hum of the station's engines changed to a deep, vibrating roar. Intruder alert. Unauthorized ships entering docking bays. Ethan leaped to his feet. He grabbed his communicator and rushed to the nearest hall where crew members were already scrambling. The announcement echoed, "All personnel prepare for defense. Unknown raiders are boarding the station." Panic spread quickly. Aliens and humans alike ran toward shelter, while security teams rushed to strategic points. The station, usually orderly, now thrummed with chaos. Ethan ran toward the command center. As he rounded a corner, he nearly collided with a group of Valari guards. At their head was Lyra herself, her ceremonial armor gleaming even under the red emergency lights. Her golden eyes were sharp, focused. "Hail," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "Stay close. We move together." Ethan felt a thrill of both fear and awe. For the first time, he was fighting alongside the Valari princess herself. The raiders struck fast. Small ships crashed through the station's outer shields, sending sparks and smoke into the docking bays. Their weapons fired in bursts of green energy, creating blinding flashes. Ethan ducked behind a wall just as a blast shattered the panel next to him. The force knocked him off his feet. His heart raced. Lyra was already moving. With her guards, she intercepted a group of raiders who had breached the inner halls. Her movements were precise, efficient, and deadly, every swing of her spear calculated. Ethan watched, fascinated. She was terrifying in her skill, yet graceful, like a dancer of war. One of the raiders noticed Ethan and lunged with a short energy blade. Ethan barely rolled aside, grabbing a loose metal pipe from the floor. He swung it instinctively. The raider's blade clanged against the pipe and sparked. Ethan kicked hard, sending the raider stumbling backward. Lyra's eyes caught his movement. She didn't speak, but her gaze held approval. He had courage, and he acted to protect himself and others. That was important in Valari culture. As they pushed forward together, chaos spread throughout the station. Civilians screamed and ducked behind cover. Sparks flew from broken conduits and smoke filled the hallways. Ethan realized that raw courage alone would not win here. They needed strategy. "Over here," Lyra shouted, pointing to a corridor filled with panicked civilians. Without hesitation, Ethan followed her. Together, they created a shield of sorts, Lyra's spear blocking attackers, Ethan guiding terrified humans to safety. He marveled at her calm. Even in danger, she thought clearly, moving efficiently, commanding those around her. He felt a strange mix of fear, admiration, and respect. This was no longer the princess who had scolded him for a careless word. This was someone whose strength inspired others. They cleared the corridor, and Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe for a moment. "We can't hold them forever," he said, panting. "They're too many," Lyra nodded. "Then we divide and delay. Lead some civilians to the docking bay. I'll take the raiders on the upper deck." Ethan hesitated. "But no hesitation, human," she said sharply, though not unkindly. "Move." He nodded, understanding that this was no time for fear. He gathered the civilians and led them toward a safer part of the station, while Lyra and her guards turned to confront the enemy. The upper deck was chaos. Raiders swarmed the platform, their weapons blazing. Lyra's spear moved like lightning, deflecting attacks, pushing enemies back with precision. Ethan arrived, breathless but seeing her struggle against a larger group. He grabbed a fallen control panel and swung it, knocking 2 raiders off balance. Lyra's eyes met his for a moment. Then she smiled, a rare, fleeting expression. He had courage, yes, but he also had quick thinking. That combination could make a difference. Side by side, human improvisation and Valari discipline worked together. Lyra struck with precision. Ethan distracted, blocked, and improvised. Step by step, they pushed the raiders back. At one point, a raider aimed a blaster at a young civilian. Without thinking, Ethan threw himself in front of the shot. The blast hit his shoulder, sending him sprawling, but he blocked the next attack with his elbow. Lyra reacted immediately, striking the attacker down with her spear. Ethan winced, but he gritted his teeth. Pain was secondary to the lives he protected. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the tide began to turn. Station security reinforcements arrived, bolstered by humans and Valari alike. The raiders, realizing they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered, retreated. Ships scrambled out through the damaged docking bays, some exploding as their engines failed. The station was saved, but the damage was clear. Smoke rose from broken panels, alarms still blared, and injured civilians were tended to by medical teams. Ethan stood, breathing heavily, his shoulder bruised and burned from sparks. Lyra approached him, her armor scorched in places, but she moved with the same calm authority. "You fought well, human," she said. "You protected more than yourself. That is what counts in Valari eyes." Ethan, still catching his breath, gave a weak smile. "I just did what I could." Lyra's golden eyes softened slightly. "What you did saved lives. Your courage is not empty, it has weight. Remember that." For the first time, Ethan felt not fear but respect, mutual deep respect. He had seen her strength. She had seen his heart. In the aftermath, the station council convened to assess damages. Aliens from many species spoke of the bravery displayed by both human and Valari defenders. Ethan's name spread, whispered in admiration. Some called him reckless. Others called him a hero. Lyra, in her quarters, reflected on the battle. The human had proven himself not just in the trial of honor, but in the chaos of real danger. She found herself reconsidering her assumptions about humanity. Perhaps they were not just reckless but resilient. Perhaps their courage could be valuable to her people. The night fell over the station. Lights glimmered across the metal floors and the hum of repairs filled the air. Ethan sat on a bench, exhausted but alive. His shoulder ached and his muscles were sore, yet he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had faced death, fought alongside a Valari princess, and survived. More than that, he had earned a measure of respect, and though he did not yet fully understand it, a bond had formed between him and Lyra, one forged not in words, but in action, courage, and shared danger. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new challenges, but tonight, for the first time, he felt like he was not alone in the galaxy. He had a companion who respected him, and together, they might face even greater trials. The morning sun glimmered through the glass panels of Orion's crown, painting streaks of light across the station's metal floors. The chaos of the previous day had faded, but its memory still lingered. Smoke had been cleared, repairs were underway, and the air was filled with a cautious sense of calm. Ethan Hale walked through the corridors, his shoulders still sore from the previous day's battle, but his steps steady. The station had praised his actions, but he had learned something far more valuable. Respect was earned through courage, loyalty, and heart, not just through words. As he approached the station's main council hall, he saw a crowd gathered, Valari, humans, and other species alike. At the front, Princess Lyra Valerian stood, radiant in her ceremonial armor. Her golden eyes scanned the audience, then fixed on him. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The moment that would decide not just his personal honor, but also how his people were seen by the Valari and others on the station. The council elder stepped forward, raising his hand. "We gather today to recognize deeds that go beyond mere words or titles. This station has faced danger, lives were at risk, and through courage and resolve, one human has proven himself worthy not just in our eyes, but in the eyes of all who witnessed him." The crowd murmured, leaning forward. Ethan felt the weight of their attention pressing down, but he held his head high. He had faced warriors, puzzles, and chaos, and he had survived. The elder continued, "Hale, you have faced the trial of honor and survived. You have protected civilians, fought alongside Valari warriors, and displayed courage and quick thinking. By Valari tradition, your honor is restored." A hush fell over the hall. Ethan could hear the quiet breaths of the gathered audience. Slowly, Lyra stepped forward. She moved with calm authority, each step measured and deliberate, her gaze locked onto his. "Human," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "You have proven yourself." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and pride, but also a deep respect as he looked at her. "Thank you, Princess," he replied, bowing slightly. "I only did what I thought was right." Lyra's expression softened, though her composure remained firm. "You have done more than what was right. You have shown bravery where others might have faltered. You have earned not just respect but trust." The crowd erupted in applause. Humans cheered. The Valari nodded with approval. And even other alien species murmured admiration. For the first time, Ethan realized that a single person's actions could bridge cultures and bring understanding between species. The elder continued, "This day shall be remembered not for the attack on our station, but for the courage displayed by those who stood together. Hail, your name will be remembered in Valari history as one who showed true honor." Ethan's chest swelled with pride. It was more than personal recognition. It was a step toward building a stronger connection between humans and Valari, and perhaps a foundation for peace and cooperation among many species. Later, outside the council hall, Ethan found a quiet moment. Lyra approached him, her armor reflecting the sunlight streaming through the station's glass panels. "You fought well yesterday," she said quietly. "More than I expected." Ethan smiled, though he still felt the soreness in his muscles. "I had a good teacher." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "A teacher?" "You," he said simply. "Watching how you moved, how you acted, your calm, your skill, it taught me more than anyone else could." Lyra regarded him silently, then nodded. "Perhaps humans have lessons for us as well. Your courage, your quick thinking, and your willingness to protect others. These are qualities that even Valari must admire." Ethan felt warmth spread through him. Respect had formed between them. Not through words alone, but through actions, through shared trials and dangers. He realized that this was the kind of understanding that could unite people, even across different worlds. In the days that followed, the station began repairs in earnest. Walls were patched, power conduits repaired, and docking bays restored. But more importantly, relationships between humans and Valari strengthened. Ethan worked alongside Lyra on several projects, from planning improved station defenses to organizing joint drills between human and Valari security forces. Their teamwork inspired others. Slowly, distrust began to fade, replaced by cautious cooperation. One afternoon, as Ethan and Lyra walked through the repaired corridors, he asked, "Do you ever regret challenging me to the trial of honor?" Lyra looked at him, her golden eyes calm. "No, it was necessary. You needed to understand our ways, and I needed to understand yours. We both learned something important. Besides," she paused, a faint smile forming. "It proved that even humans can rise to great challenges." Ethan laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is a compliment," she said firmly, then added quietly, "and a warning. Words carry weight, human. Never forget that." "I won't," Ethan said, smiling, "and I'll be careful. But sometimes, words start something bigger than expected. Like this," Lyra's expression softened. "Yes. And sometimes the right actions can make those words mean something good." Weeks passed, and the station became more than just a trading hub. It became a symbol of cooperation and trust. Humans and Valari began training together, sharing knowledge and learning from each other. Ethan continued his work, but now with confidence and purpose. He knew his people were still young in the galaxy, but their courage and creativity could make a difference, and he had learned that respect was not given lightly. It was earned through courage, action, and integrity. One evening, as the twin suns of the system set behind the station, casting warm gold and violet light across the decks, Ethan stood on the observation platform. Lyra joined him, silent at first, watching the stars that stretched endlessly into space. "You've changed the way your people are seen here," she said softly. "And you've changed the way I see yours." Ethan replied. They stood together side by side watching the galaxy. Neither spoke for a long moment. The silence was comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding and mutual respect. Finally, Lyra said, "The galaxy is vast, Hale. But if more humans act as you have, perhaps one day, our worlds can truly stand together." Ethan nodded. "I hope so. I truly hope so." For the first time, he felt not fear, not doubt, but certainty. He had faced trials, danger, and even the judgment of a proud alien race, and he had proven that humans could rise to meet any challenge. Lyra turned to him, her golden eyes meeting his. "Then let this be the beginning, human. A beginning of respect, cooperation, and understanding. Let our actions speak louder than any careless words ever could." Ethan smiled. "Agreed, Princess." As they looked out into the stars, the station behind them hummed with life, repair, and hope. What had begun with a careless word and a moment of anger had grown into something far greater, a bond forged in courage, tested by danger and strengthened by respect. And in that moment, Ethan knew the galaxy was not so vast and lonely after all. Together, humans and Valari could face any challenge, and perhaps even inspire others to do the same. The stars stretched endlessly, but for the first time the future felt bright, full of promise, and ready to be shaped by courage, honor, and the hearts of those willing to rise.